Hello, I would like to present you my study that I did for my master degrees in special education for autistic adults. So my subject was a multisensory storytelling for autistic adults with learning disabilities. So in this session, you will hear what is multisensory storytelling, sensory story sessions, Max's Amazing Models by Linda Chapman that I applied in one of the settings where I work. Then multisensory research study, more about how I developed the sessions and then how I collected data. Students' experience during the sessions, how I collected this feedback from them. Staff's feedback, my conclusion and implications, and also you will have a slide with further readings. So what is multisensory storytelling? Multisensory storytelling was developed by Chris Fuller in late 1980s for children with multiple and profound learning disabilities. This type of storytelling provided inclusive and enriched experience of storytelling. And this was cited in Brooke et al. 2011. The multisensory storytelling approach significantly increased attention in children with profound multiple learning disabilities when compared with regular storytelling. So the attention to story and sensory stimuli was much higher than the attention to the storyteller. This was found in a study by Brooke et al. In 2015 and then 2016. So the children were more interested in the story and the items than the person who is presenting, which is quite important to understand, because the children don't have to watch the person who is talking as long as they're engaging with the material that is offered to them. So the story provides the context, and sensory stimuli provides like audio, visual, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory stimuli provide inclusive and immersive experience for participants. So other uses of multisensory approach were also, I found studies from Scott 2010 and Alrobe 2010 for mathematics for children with learning difficulties, where they used objects, of course, because numbers are so abstract, so they had to use objects manipulation, possibly smell, but mainly tactile input. And then the other studies found improvement of language skills in bilingual children with visual impairment. This was done in China 2020 by Kamei Hana and Chang and Freiling. They also found increase in vocabulary in children with learning disability when they were learning English as a second language. So this was done in China in Hettiarachchi, Valisudhara and Renevira 2010 study. So as you can see, mainly multisensory storytelling was used in speech and language and the mathematics. But then for typically developing children, when they introduce scent into their technology lesson, they saw creating stories with technology, with other senses. They saw more cooperation and interaction with other peers because they had to manipulate objects also as just talking about things. So they had to create something, and this was in study by Barabushka Posada 2017. So my study was about this book, Max's Amazing Models by Linda Chapman. So the sensory story sessions were part of speech and language therapy sessions at college for autistic adults with intellectual disabilities. The background sound was deliberate because that's how I made my story. So there was always something when I flicked the page. So I had the PowerPoint presentation that was set structure. So we had the greeting page, then story. So there were pictures of the story, Then they did color semantic activity, games like matching games or Lego therapy games. Then there was feedback from students. That's how I gathered my data. And then goodbye, and they chose how they wanted to say goodbye. So it had clear beginning and end. Visual stimuli was provided by PowerPoint because the book is so colorful. The illustrations are amazing, and also there are some signs in the corners, and I was signing so they could see my hands, which was visual too. And audio stimuli, which was the background music that you heard at the beginning. So each page had different sounds, just to provide context to the story. And also I had these sound buzzers where you press them and they make sound. So this was more of when I was passing it around, when we were talking about something, they would press it and hear the sound. And the story was about the power button. So that was one of the buzzers, which was quite nice. Then I used sensory items. So on table in front of each student, there were fidget toys, mirrors, spiky balls, toy cars, surge box, kaleidoscope, and this was to provide the tactile and kinesthetic stimuli because they do like the fidget toys. I tried to choose the ones that they were related to the story as well. Then we had scented scarves, which was different scent every week. So I used lemon, mint, cinnamon, chocolate, and things like that, which provided olfactory stimuli. So I sprayed the essential oil on the scarf, and basically, if it stayed there, so all sessions they could smell it, and even the room just smelled nice when I took them out of the bag. So that was quite nice. And taste items, which were different again for each week. So I had, for example, popcorn, I had cornflakes, dried fruit, and things like that. And this was providing gustatory stimuli. But with the activities, as I said, with the structure for each session, I used colorful semantics. So colorful semantics are color-coded symbols for creating the full sentence. So it can cover different levels of people's understanding of the verbal, non-verbal presentation. So they would answer questions who, what, doing, what, and where by using these color-coded symbols. So for example, who is orange, and the question on the picture is who is sitting on the floor, and there is underneath there is an answer, and the bottom part is where they choose the words. So why I said that it's for different levels of understanding for our young people, it's because they can just match the symbols. They can match the symbols sitting and on the floor because that's in the question, and then we can focus on who. So we can ask them who, and then probably I will give them to choose out of two pictures with orange background to make it easier, and then whatever they will answer we will put it there, and it's fine. We will just tap the sentence in that order, and we say who is sitting on the floor. Max is sitting on the floor. So then, and of course Max is not sitting on the floor on that picture. That was my mistake, but we will still go with it. So well done, good sentence, because it was part of speech and language therapy. So it was a sentence, and some young people will match really nicely by colors. Some will make the sentence without even the symbols when they've done it a few times. So it's really nice and it's repetitive. So I had different pictures with different questions, and it worked out like 2 to 3 questions per young person, because we had really small classes. So it was during lockdown when I was doing it. So it was handy. Then I use PECS, Picture Exchange Communication System, not really the way how PECS work, but I used symbols, and I used the sentence strip with saying I see, and this was the game I spy. So I would be saying all those pictures will be taken, like if you can see the cat is underneath the picture, and I will just say, I see a cat, take the cat symbol off, and then they will put the cat on that big picture, because there was Velcro on it. And basically they had to match, again, matching shapes, matching what the symbol means for the picture. So it was on different levels, and it was very popular with our young people. And this was a picture from the book. So again, as I said, I used the story to go through whole the session, even with the activities. The activity was Lego therapy, and Lego therapy is used for development of social communication skills. It encourages taking part in group activity, and taking turns, and also everyone in the group has their role. So, for example, there is the supplier, the engineer, sorry, the first one is engineer, who would say what we need. He had to look at the plan. So for example, we were making a monster, so the plate was the body. So he looked at the plan and he will say to engineer, we need the plate, and then the engineer will ask the builder, put the plate in the middle, and then we will just build bit by bit. We will build this monster. So everybody had a role, and after 2 or 3 tasks, we will swap. So they have a go with different role. So it was quite complicated. So I'm not gonna go into details, but it was really really nice, because they were making something together. They all had time to process, and they had to wait for the others, because they can't move on until that part was finished. So that was quite nice. And I think it at some point it was so quiet when one of them was creating they were using the strip again to ask for how many arms they want, and then the builder was putting them on. So that was really nice. Everybody's watching them, and having they could have a little break from being center of attention. If they've done their bit, they can now wait until it's all finished. And then I was asking students to provide with the feedback. At the beginning, I asked for their consent. If they want to come to session, they would say yes or no. If they say no, I would say, okay, if you want to leave, you can leave. We will start now. You can stay here, but if you want to leave, so staff knew how to support them. And then at the end, we were doing feedback. So I would have 2 questions. What did you like in story time? And the pictures that they could choose were the ones what we use. So there was the food what we use, the buzzers, story, the book. Then there were toys that we had on a table when they arrived. There was, at the time, there was a bingo game. Music meant the music from either from the PowerPoint, or music from just from me singing hello or goodbye. Some of them really like those songs. And then on the other side was what you dislike in the story time, so they could say what they dislike. And I took it as, yes, this is their opinion, so I wouldn't prejudge. And it was, they don't normally give feedback after sessions, so it was so new for them, so I took it as a completely new. So for my multisensory storytelling research study, I had 10 participants with age range from 19 to 23. We had 57% attendance due to COVID-19 restrictions. So I did it in January 2021, which was still schools were closed, only key worker kids were going to school, and then everything was still closed. So it was quite hard, and there was always COVID in one of the homes because they live in residential settings. On several occasions, some students declined to provide feedback, which I respected. They didn't have to if they didn't want to. And from their feedback, I found that the most liked aspect of multisensory storytelling was the music. And as I said, it could be the background music, it could be the buzzer, it could be the goodbye song or hello song. Then they like the sensory items. They played with the fidget toys. Not all of them played with fidget toys, but they like them. And then the story, because they listened to it. So there, in the book, there are 3 stories, and I read each story 3 times. Then they also said what the items or what aspects they disliked from multisensory storytelling, and that was the scented scarves and the taste items. Because not everybody likes everything, eating everything, which is fine. It just shows that wasn't the most important, because some people may be worried that if you add food to sessions, that that can be overstimulating, or that's the only thing they focus on. But it was on this occasion. So what student experience I saw? One of the students was observed to completely change his presentation when he was smelling a cinnamon scented scarf. When he arrived to this session, he said that he was angry. He was really clinging to his stuff. It was new stuff, and he was not listening much to the story. He was really just trying to go to toilet all the time and stuff like that. And then I just passed him, because the scarves were already on the desks. I passed him the scarf and I just told him to smell it. So he did. And from that moment, he completely changed. He started throwing the scarf in the air. He started making happy vocalization. He was smiling and he appeared high. He was in trance. And after that, he had the scarf in his hand, but he was completing all the activities and everything. And he completely forgot about the stuff. He wasn't holding on to them. It was, oh, it was so different. And it happened one more time, but he wasn't as dysregulated the second time, but how he changed. I can't remember what was the second smell, something sweet as well. So yeah, that was really interesting. So another student, he started recalling his past experiences when he tasted popcorn, when he started talking about how he used to go to cinema, and this was in deep lockdown. So we were all like, what's gonna happen? He wants to go to cinema, he can't go. But he was just talking about it. He just said, I used to have this, I used to have tofu popcorn, I used to have this. And then another time, another week, he was tasting dried bananas and he started talking about his primary school when he was having it as a snack, which was, again, I could never predicted that that they will do that. And of course, many people will be asking, because the autistic young people, whether they will be overstimulated by all this sensory overload. And there was one student who found it too much. So what we had to do, we had to reduce the items in front of him, because he couldn't have anything on the table, only the mirror. He really liked that, and he was fine. He was regulating even when he had it all the time. Anything else, I just had to bring to him and to take it off, take it away, so nothing was staying near him. And in the whole 9 week sessions, but it took 9 weeks to go over all the stories, he was able to stay in the whole session on the last 2 sessions. Other than that, he would always have to leave at some point because it was too much. But then he was getting used to it, and we were getting better and better at how many things we can use. And if he was pressing the buzzer, he would press it once, well done, and took it away from him, because even that could overstimulate him. And then when we came to tasting items and stuff, he really enjoyed it. He was really into it. So, by the end, he got used to it and he stayed in the whole session, which I thought it was really good. The staff's feedback presented in this word cloud, you can see the bigger words means they were used more in their feedback, so that they were engaged, they were well engaged, I think. they play with buttons, they read the story, they did the sentences, they explored. And sometimes the feedback was like, he didn't even look at them, he didn't even listen to the story, he was just playing with toys. So for the app, that's maybe true. But every time what I saw, every time I started new page and there was different sound, he looked up. So I know he was engaged. And also when he did the activities, he knew the characters, he knew the answers to my questions. So he was engaging and he didn't want to leave. So for me that was nice. So from my observations, students showed interest in the story and activities by listening, sometimes by watching the presentation and interacting with their peers and staff during activities. The olfactory and gustatory items were contributing to the atmosphere, but the taste items were not a reward. They were part, I was introducing them during the story time, not when we did the activities. The sessions created safe space for practicing social skills in Lego therapy, and students with different levels of abilities were included in all part of the sessions. So I think point of view. And conclusions, the multisensory storytelling is an effective approach for autistic adults with intellectual disabilities. Students sustained engagement levels throughout the session. Students practiced social skills and social interaction. They provided feedback about their experience, and students interacted with the environment via multiple senses. The implications are the sensory story sessions are now implemented across education settings as part of speech and language therapy sessions in place where I work. Lego therapy and color semantics are used in college as part of the universal communication strategies. A multisensory approach can be applied in other parts of curriculum. For example, in art, you can have background music, you can play activities about your object, what you're creating. Environmental science, music in presentation, again, it can be implemented, or different sounds, listening to different sounds in the environmental science. Also using lots of tactile input, but in environmental science you do that because you sometimes go out. Or in careers where you can add sounds, music, scents as well. So scent to the sessions and to different roles and things like that. So I think the one sessions or one subject that is already implementing all of these is when you do full technology, because you are so involved, you have all senses there, and maybe just background music again, but calming maybe, or even just to have a song at the beginning that may mean something. But there is loads of multi-sensory things you can do in different sessions. So this is the page of further reading if you would like to see the studies I mentioned earlier. And if you have any questions, thank you very much.